Hey everyone, it's Fox from modelmaking.guru here, and back with part 7 of our build of the Bandai Master Grade 1/100 scale Freedom Gundam version Wolf. You remember in the last episode we did loads of things. We did paint chipping and all other kind of bits and bobs and some assembly. We finished off by me filling the seams on the beam rifle. Trying to get that looking like it wasn't two pieces stuck together. That was done. It's all been sanded down, and as you can see, I've now sprayed it a lovely coat of gunmetal. However, what I'm going to do in this episode to start with, I'm not going to be leaving this gun as gunmetal. What am I going to do, you're asking yourself? Well, you're probably not, actually. You're probably just thinking, shut up and get on with it. Okay. I'm not going to leave this gunmetal. I'm actually going to spray it rubber black. If you know, rubber black's the colour I use for pre-shading. It's a matte colour. This is a shiny colour. Why am I going to do that? What's the point in spraying this and then covering it in matte? I'm going to use a method to chip the black paint, or the rubber black paint, off this. I'm going to have it so that the rubber black covers it all, but I'm going to chip it away to expose the shiny metal underneath. Now, we're going to use a different method to the one I showed you in the last video, or the one before, I forget now. We're not going to be just chipping the paint away with a knife. If you remember, I said primers toughen the paint, and when you chip the paint away, the primer is exposed. This is paint, underneath which is primer. If I paint rubber black on here, and then chip it off with a blade, I'm just going to expose the primer. I don't want that. I want to protect this paint, and I want to remove the paint on top of it, the rubber black. So, what we're going to do is something called the hairspray method. Old, time-honoured technique amongst model makers. Basically, we're going to cover this in hairspray. We're going to cover it in rubber black, airbrush the rubber black on. Then we're going to use water and either a cocktail stick or a brush or a cotton bud or Q-tip, as our colonial cousins call it, to remove chips and bits off it. And that will give us the paint worn away to show the shiny metal underneath. So, without further ado, I shall quickly demonstrate the hairspray technique. So, for the first time ever in one of my videos, I think, one of these Model Making Guru actual model building videos, you're going to see my face. I'm really sorry. You're going to see all of me. Well, yeah, I'll rephrase that. You're going to... I can't think of a way to rephrase that. You're going to... Let's just go to the outdoor model making area, shall we?
Here's what you'll need. Yourself, obviously, duh. Your model piece, na-na. A hand with a glove to stop stuff going on your hand. And any old hairspray, doesn't matter what it is, any will do. Yes, very nice. Now, to avoid blaps of stuff coming out of the can, press the trigger away from the model, pan it across, and release. Press, pan across, and release. You don't get splurts of stuff coming out then. Very good. Press, pan, release, press, pan, release, press, pan, release. Yeah, you should also check the direction of the wind when you're spraying. Do it from about arm's length, and that will avoid too much going on the model part. Otherwise, it'll just look nasty. Also, if you can do a super concentration face like this one, it kind of helps. Probably. And we're done!
1, 2, 3, back in the room. Right. Sorry about showing my face like that. I know. Anyway, that was the hairspray technique, or putting on the hairspray. It's important to note that technique also works for applying primer to a plastic part. Same principle. Press the button, move it across the model, release the button. Same principle, just with primer, rattle can primer, not hairspray. So the hairspray's been done. You can see here I've actually gone ahead and airbrushed the rubber black onto the gun, on top of the hairspray. Apologies if my voice sounds a bit deep, by the way, suddenly in this section. I was out on the beers last night with a friend it was his birthday, and he's also moving away to New Zealand, so yeah, so a little bit blurry this morning. So anyway, enough of that nonsense. Let's crack on with this. Two ways you can do this. What I'm going to do first, you're going to need some very simple tools. Unlike chipping with a knife blade, you're going to need basically a cotton bud, a toothpick. You can use a brush. I'll see if I can grab one. Hang on, let me find one. You can use any old brush. I might not. But this is how I like to do it. The first thing I like to do is just go over the edges with the cocktail stick before I do any wetness. This sometimes works, sometimes doesn't. So it's worth trying at least to start with. We'll do it as a 2-stage jobby. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just work on the edges very lightly, no pressure at all. And hopefully you can see all this. I'm just going to drag the cocktail stick across some of these edges, just to see if I can get any of the rubber black off without actually using water. Just for some, it's like a reverse of dry brushing, I guess. I'm just scraping. Now it's not coming off much. It's always worth trying this a little bit because you've only applied a light airbrush coat, so it's quite powdery. Now you see there it's actually scraped that, but that's not a problem. I'm going to work on that. But it's worth giving it a try. I'm just doing it along the line of the edge. Okay, so that'll do for that. Just some really light edges, and you can see you've got the matte of the rubber black and then the shiny of the metallic chrome silver underneath. Now the next step, as my brush slowly rolls off the table, the next step is to use some water and do a bit more chipping. So all you do, take your cotton bud. I've got a little thing of water over here, just cold water. Dampen your cotton bud. Go onto the part you want to make the paint come off and just cover it in water. As much or as little as you like, the more the better. You're not going to take the paint off at this point. What it's basically going to do is it's going to work its way through the layer of paint, in this case the rubber black, and soften it. But hopefully, in an ideal world, I don't know where my cocktail stick went, there it is. What should happen is the hairspray should protect the gunmetal underneath, and the rubber black should be soft and pliable. So, give it a second just to soak. Let's just pause a second while it does that. Okay, right, it's been going for about 30 seconds. All I'm going to do now is chip away at the paint and see what happens. So I'm just touching it to the paint gently, similar to the way you do chipping with a knife. It allows you to get really, really tiny chip effects. And again, use some logic. I'll zoom in a bit so you can see. I'll make sure it's in focus. Where are we? There we go. Use some logic as to where the chips might be, where the high traffic, high contact areas will be. Don't think about it too much. Don't have in your mind that it looks a bit rubbish. And like you did with the blade, you can build up little scratches to make larger patches. So do some little like cross hatching and just build it. Try and do some little random spots here and there. Okay, right, I've done the whole gun. It's got its nice shiny bits. I tend to get a bit carried away, so yeah. Now, the only limitation with this method, when you're doing a shiny and a matte colour, is of course that you can't then slap a matte varnish all over all this. Well, you can, and I'm going to have to. But what you'll have to do, if you do, because normally with anything that was matte coloured, you go and matte varnish it to protect the paint. This is going to have this on top, which is going to have to be matte varnished. I could just do all that separately, but I want to weather them all in one piece, so I want to put them together now. So what I'll have to do is when I matte varnish this, there'll still be some shine to the gunmetal parts. So once it's matte varnished, I'll have to go back in with a very fine brush and just add a few more little sparkly bits here and there, maybe with some chrome silver, just dry brush around the edges, just to bring back the sparkle to some of those edges, because it will be still different to the black, but it won't be quite as shiny. So you need to bear that in mind. So I shall now put this together. You have what I assume is the sight. Now this can't go on yet because the cover has to go on first. And this is where we see exactly how much of all that hard work now disappears. So let's just get this on, if I can figure out how it goes in. Oh, hello. There we go. So that goes on top. Bee, bee, bee. And then the sight goes on top here. Now it doesn't seem obvious, but this isn't exactly round. It's got a slight edge to it. It's got a flat bit on the top. and if you look carefully, you can just about see on the sight housing here that it's just about at the top there. So at first I just thought it wasn't fitting very well, but it is. It's got to be the right way up. So there we have our beam rifle. I've not put the green part for the scope in yet. That will go in at the end because I'll be painting that clear green and sticking it on. So as you can see, most of that hard work has now disappeared. Hooray! Welcome to the world of Gunpla, where you spend a week painting a frame and cover it up with armour. So that's the beam rifle done. What is next? I will go and figure out what's next, because I don't know. So, back in a moment. Okay, and we're back. Right, okie dokie. Since I last filmed that last section, I've gone off and done a little bit of work. I have painted the pilot, Kira Yamato, painted the cockpit, ta-da, and also sorted out the head, and I'll explain about the head in a moment. I couldn't film any of these really because they were too small and fiddly and my head was right in shot and you wouldn't have seen anything. So basically I thought best to film them and then tell you what I've done. So let's do the cockpit and stuff first, get it out of the way. Pilot Kira Yamato, who is, bearing in mind this big, has now been fully painted. As close as I can to match what I found to be the images of the flight suit he wears in Gundam Seed. The blue's not quite right, but it's the blue I had. So he's got the white jumpsuit with the dark grey piping and the blue piping on top of that, and the little blue bit on the helmet. Now, in this the visor's down, and I couldn't remember what colour his visor was, if it was anything other than transparent. So I've done the time-honoured space thing and just given him a gold visor. Because, hey, you're in space, so you have gold visor, obviously. So that's what we've given him. Not exactly what I would call the best painted figure in the world, but then again, he is this big. So he is tiny, so I don't think I've done badly there. I've not gone to town on the back because you're not going to see that. Colour-wise, it was Tamiya Matte White, Tamiya German Grey. You know I was going to use Tamiya German Grey. The blue was Tamiya Sky Blue, which is a gloss colour, but it's been matte varnished. I didn't realise it was gloss till I started painting with it. And the visor is Tamiya Gold Leaf. All them was gloss varnished with Future Floor Wax, Pledge multi-surface wax, and then was washed over with a couple of Ultimate Modelling Products washes. Let me zoom out so I can do that, because you'll see a massive one otherwise. What do we have? Ultimate Modelling Products, Mud, and Dark Dirt. These are basically, I think now, Paul Bretland, the guy that owns UMP and also runs International Scale Modeler, I think he'll correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they're clay-based water washes, so it's basically water and clay and probably some other stuff. It does say there, clay-based, there you go. Basically, just imagine it's clay-based colouring in water. So it's like any other wash. You slap it all over, give it 10 minutes to dry, and then when you go back and it's dried a little bit, you can take a slightly moist cotton bud / Q-tip, or perhaps a piece of towel, and just rub it over, and it will take the colouring off and leave it in all the little nooks and crannies. So there you go. What else did we do? We did the cockpit. There's not a lot of detail in these cockpits. You've basically got a seat and some little side bits and the main box for the cockpit. So I'd already painted it gunmetal, basically just painted the seat Tamiya Red Brown, which has got a little bit of white in it, so it's a bit lighter. Did some German grey on the little armrest areas, and then gave it a wash of the Ultimate Modelling Products Dark Dirt. I gloss varnished it first with the Pledge multi-surface wax and then did that wash. Haven't matte varnished it, and I won't do because I want it to stay shiny. I'm not bothered about the sides because you won't see these. I want it to stay shiny, so we're going to leave that as it is. So it just remains for me to put Jon Feller my lad into Jon Cockpit Gefahrten, if I can do it without actually having my massive... Let me put my visor on because I can't actually see. Get myself a cottony bud. See if I can... They're often quite a tight fit, these figures in the cockpit, so helps to have something to push it in with, but you want to do it gently, so use like a cotton bud or something. Don't use anything sharp because you'll just take paint off everything. And he is in. So, zip, all the zooming today. So, we now have and out of focus. Slightly out of focus. We have our little fella, Kira Yamato. Or Yamato Kira. Now I never know, because I know Japanese have their first name last and their surname first. So is his surname Yamato or Kira? Is it Kira Yamato, so Kira's his surname and Yamato's his first name? Or are we just pronouncing it the wrong around? It should be Yamato Kira. I always got the impression it should be Yamato Kira. Or Yamato Kira. I don't know. Somebody correct me on the Japanese nomenclature. I know they have the first name second and the surname first, the family name first, I think. So, and I've seen some like anime and things where the name in the English subtitles is like Kira Yamato, but if you listen to the dialogue, it's Yamato Kira. So I think we're being pandered to a bit. So tell me, is it Kira Yamato or Yamato Kira? I think it's Kira Yamato. Anyway, I'm just waffling now, so shut up. So there's yon fella in his cockpit. Can put him to one side in the tray of trays. Now, the other thing I did was I took care of the head. Now, we'll go through this and zoom out a bit. Gundam heads are fantastic. They're beautifully sculpted and they're really good. And they come in two varieties. One's where, especially in master grade, one's where every seam line is taken care of and you have nothing to worry about. And one's where you've got a big ass seam line that's right in the middle and you're like, oh, thanks Bandai. And this is in the latter. We had on this puppy, the seam line is here, it joined here, right the way down. It's front and back parts, these two snap together. Face goes in the middle and the polycap goes inside. Now this is the challenge I have. I need to fill that seam line, which I have done now. I've filled it here and on this side. The difficulty is you can't, if I'm going to fill these seam lines, I'm going to use glue. But to glue these together, I have to put the face mask and the polycap in. Now I have read various blogs and looked at other people who tend to do things like carve out loads of stuff from inside the head so you can glue the head together, paint it, and then put the face mask and polycaps in. I really can't be bothered doing that. It's far too complicated and I'll just screw it up. So what I do is I assemble and paint the face mask completely, get it all varnished and done. I insert it all with the polycaps into the head. As I put the two halves together, I put a little bit of the Tamiya extra thin glue on both sides of the seam, and same as we did with the rifle, squish it together. Give it 10 minutes and come back with the normal thick Tamiya glue, put that over the top, and then let it dry for maybe an hour. Come back and gently sand it, primer it. If there's still a seam line, then sand that primer off that area, go back and put some more Tamiya thick glue, or Tamiya thick glue even, on there, let it dry again and sand it again. That's what I've done a couple of times and it's got rid of this seam line. So what I've done is I've got rid of the seam line here. I've kept the seam line here because it looks like a nice cool piece of the panelling for the vents. And the seam line here is just part of that natural crest. So that's cool. So it's just that little bit there I had to do, and I had to be careful with the glue not to cover up the Vulcan cannon housings here. It's really frustrating in a way because the first one I ever did was the Gundam Heavy Arms, and that had a two-part head where you had the left side and the right side, with the seam line right down the middle and right down the back. But this bit, the crest, was a separate piece that just clipped on the top, covered up the seam line, and just left you with the panel line at the back. And that was brilliant because there was just no filling to do. And yet then you get ones here where there's a big seam right down the middle, and it's like, oh really? You couldn't have just done it differently? So anyway, I filled that in. Again, I couldn't film it, but it's the same process with the gun. Put the glue in, sand it down. This has now been painted. I actually got a bit overboard on the painting because I've been sanding primer away. I had to go a bit thicker with the paint, which means I've lost my pre-shading on the head, but I can live with that. I did do some pre-shading on these vents, on these grills on the cheeks, just using the rubber black. Just got the airbrush in there, and then when I sprayed with the airbrush for the white, I sprayed kind of at that angle here, so the spray paint couldn't go in the grill, it would go along the edge, and that kind of left a bit dark in there, which is quite nice. It's come out quite nicely, that. So it looks like I really carefully painted it, but I haven't. I've just gone zup with the rubber black, and then blap with the white, not thought about it, and it's come out quite nicely. So what remains now, I've painted some chrome silver on the Vulcans. Remains for me to do now is take this masking off. And in terms of the masking, I just slapped it in to cover everything up. So let's get this masking off. Okay, so let's just gently peel this away. I've seen people go into like great lengths to mask off the faces of these things, but it's not that hard. A couple of pieces on the sides, 1 or 2 on the top, and you're done. As long as it stops anything going underneath. Having said that, of course, I could pull all this off. I use some masking fluid as well to seal up any little gaps, and that's this purple stuff you can see. And there we have, oops, no, forgot this bit. I also covered up the top camera as well, because of course I did. There we go. Right, and there we have our little itty bitty Gundam head. And that's quite cool. Now you'll note I've used the stickers for the eyes. I do quite often paint the eye, bang the camera. I do quite often paint the eye masks, the cameras. I keep calling them eyes, but they're not the cameras. But you know what? I found the stickers with the kit are like some of the few stickers I actually ever use, because they look nice and clear and crisp, and they're dead well defined. They're not, well, often when I try painting the mask, I'll paint the black and I'll paint the clear part where it's supposed to be an eye green or clear yellow, and it often comes out dark even if I put white or silver behind it. So I've actually started just using the actual stickers, because they're fine. They look great, they're nice and crisp, and surprisingly, even when you gloss varnish over these eyes, they still stay a bit shiny. I quite like that, especially the green ones. So we've got the sticker in the top camera as well. So that's the head is basically done. It's all painted. All I need to do is stick the V-fin on and do some weathering. Now there's one other interesting thing as well. As I said, before I did all this, I did assemble the face mask, which is like the white part, the red for the bit under the eyes and the goatee, and then the eyes, obviously, or the cameras. I have spent a long time trying to figure out how to do panel lining on face masks, or just do panel lining at all. Now obviously the first thing you might think is, well, you've done those gunk washing videos where you've used oil paints. Yeah, I have done. I do that on the body, but on the head, the head's too small and too detailed and delicate. I've kind of gone off the idea of doing that on the head so much because I want to keep everything crisp on the face. The other obvious thing might be Gundam markers, you know, the fine Gundam markers for doing your panel lines. Again, obvious idea, and they work really well if your Gundam's not painted. The one thing I've learned is with Gundam markers, if it's a bare plastic model, great, you do your panel lines, get it in there with the Gundam marker. You make a mistake, just get either the eraser marker or just some rubbing alcohol, 97% IPA, and just get a cotton bud and rub it over like that, and it will get rid of the smudges for you. Usually works pretty well. If a model's painted, not so easy, because what you'll find is if you use something like the Gundam marker eraser or alcohol, it'll probably take your paint off, especially with acrylics, or if you've used a varnish even, it'll probably take the paint off. So I was like, what can I use for these now? It's a real pain, because I want to go around the rest of the head. I might just try and do some subtle panel lining on the head, because the head's come out clean anyway, so I may as well keep it clean-ish. And I had a sudden cunning idea. Just use a pencil. Literally a pencil. So I got myself a bog standard HB pencil, sharpened it up, and did the panel lines at the side of the mask and the little vents here where the nose would be. And the beauty of using a pencil is that you can clean up any smudges with a bog standard pencil eraser. Just draw your panel lines, get your pencil, draw your panel lines in, make sure it's nice and sharp so it fills the lines. Anything that goes outside, just done. You've got perfect panel lines. So I think from now on, pencils. Now I don't know about other coloured parts. If it's white, then an HB pencil was quite nice and dark, or maybe even a slightly lighter pencil if you want something more subtle. If you've got something coloured like a blue or black area, I will have to try at some point coloured pencils, actual normal colour pencils, and see if they work for panel lining. I had no problems when I varnished it. It lost its graphite shine, which is great. It didn't wash away or fade. So you know what? I think from now on, if I'm going to do panel lining that isn't just done by the normal gunk washing, I think we're going to use pencils, because you know what? It's a lot easier than Gundam markers, a lot easier than panel line washes. It might not be relevant in every case, might work in every situation, but if I'm going to spend 5 hours doing an enamel panel line wash or using Gundam markers and cleaning up because I keep messing it up, or 10 minutes with a pencil, you know where my money goes. Right, so that's the head. So here we have our lovely V-fin. So I may as well bap this on now. On you go, and this is where usually I break it. That should fit on there quite nicely. Always try and do this carefully because they are quite delicate. You can easily snap them. Now the head is by no means complete. I've got, still got weathering to do on this, and I've got to put the camera on the back. There we go with our Freedom Gundam head. One other trick when you're doing stickers, I do the stickers on the eyes and on the cameras. One other little trick I found is as well, to make them stick more and stay on when you're going to be manhandling the face masks together, put them on the clear part, or on the back here, and then give them a quick coat of gloss varnish. Quick coat with a brush of the Pledge multi-surface wax. It makes them nice and shiny and it locks them in. And then once I've finished this head completely and there's nothing more to do on it, what I will do is get the brush again and just go over the eyes with the Pledge multi-surface wax just to bring a little bit of the shine back if it's gone. The green ones seem to be the most shiny because they're quite metallic, but these are quite nice. So they will dull a bit when I matte varnish it. But I've already matte varnished the face mask, so when I varnish the head, I might actually just angle the spray down like that so it doesn't tend to go into the eye mask, the eye area. And again, yes, I'll put some on the camera. I've not put this one on yet because I'll put this on kind of last when I've finished all the weathering, just so it looks nice and clean and shiny. I will do some oil paint weathering on here in these vents because they lost the pre-shading and round the back of the seam line. But I might tend to do it a little bit easy. I might do some pencil lining first and then go and try the rest of the gunk wash. So that's the head. So the head is pretty much done. Now I think we've got most stuff done. What I might do, I might see if I can assemble the interior torso area and get that done. Now I've got the cockpit painted and varnished. So, back in a moment. Okie dokie, right. So I've had a quick look and we can get big chunks of this torso built. I'm going to use the same kind of methodology as we were before, which is try and keep matte things and shiny things separate so they can all be varnished and dealt with separately. So we're not going to get all of this built together right now, so we're not going to get these done, the actual armour parts. Move those out of the way. But we'll get all the internals done as best we can. So, following the instructions, and I'll just rattle through this fairly quickly. We have the cock and button. That needs to go. So we have these two parts. This is the grill for behind the vents in the chest. I'll tell you what I will do. Just because I've been dying to put these in. Let's get these vents in. If you remember on the original one, when I showed the sort of concept diagrams, these were going to be yellow. But after a while I thought, you know what, no, I was looking at my Shinanju Stein box and I thought, you know what, these white vents look great on the Stein. Let's do these instead. So I decided as the body's grey, I'll make these white, and why is it not going in? Technical difficulties. So we'll spot that in there, and we'll splop that in there. Keep it on camera, dear boy. So that's the vents in. And I quite like the look of the white vents with the grey surround. I think it looks quite cool. Cool, model finished. No, not really. Right, so we have, what have we got? The two halves of the torso. So that's the front, because those are the bits that go behind the vents. So the cockpit needs to go... Oh, first, wait, no. First we have the poly cap, which goes in here. This is for the backpack. Oh, hang on. No, it says to do it a certain way. And the certain way is with the long section at the bottom. There's a little pair of bunny ears on the instructions shouting at me. Try and get this in here. Cockpit needs to go into these two holes here. So I'll just squidge that in. That doesn't seem to want to go in. On this side where there's no poly cap in the way. There we go. I thought this was going to be one of those like it pops out kind of cockpits, but I don't think it will be. Oh, hello, missed that whole section here. Got to make the necky, throaty bit. Alright, this is the bit, this is the collar for the neck, and it's saying this tab needs to align with this little groove, and this little divot is at the front. You can see a little sort of cut off edge there, that's at the front, so it would go like this. Click. There you go. And I'm not going to put this on, or am I going to have to put this on now? I'm going to have to put this on now. Okay, fine. So there's your neck joint. Now again, this breaks my rule of gloss and matte, but I have to put it on now because it's the way it goes together. So, well, never mind. I'll be able to work around that anyway. Stick the two halves of the torso together. This is actually quite difficult. There we go. Kaplunk. And we have the first main chunk. Now I was hoping, like I thought it was going to be one of those cockpits that pulls out when it opens, but it's not. So there you go. I can attach these to these. Little pair of bunny ears telling me these need to be around. You've got two little, I don't know if you can see, you've got two little bars in the middle, two little vents. They need to be aligned like that on either side, which means that one is this one. That way. There we go. No, we don't. Doesn't want to go in for some reason. Come on. Why you no go in? Okay, so that, there's a little T-bar there, so that needs to go there, he says, suddenly realising it doesn't fit this way either. Come on, what am I doing wrong here? It's always the simplest instructions that confuse me, and not the complicated ones, but the simplest ones. Okay, so you've got two little thrusters in the back. What else can we combobulate? We have the cockpit top hatch. I haven't painted this part because it's going to be a moving hinge, so I left it. This needs to have this little widget sticking out at the top. That needs to go in here. That needs to go on those two little clamps on the thing there. And this will be a tight fit, you watch. There was that. It may well go across the carpet. Let's find out. Wow, that is a tight fit. Doesn't help that I've painted that part. Wowzers. Let me get the knife blade and we'll try trimming some of that paint off. You can see there's paint on those two pegs, so we'll just scrape some of that off. It's probably not the paint at all, it's probably just a very tight fit, but this won't do any harm. Take some of this painty off and try again. So it's this way, peg facing that way. Oh, blimey Riley. Hello. Oh, blimey. This is not one to go on. It's a very tight fit. Oh, there we go. So that's going to be the cockpit door hinge. And that will effectively go on here. It will snap on there and be the cockpit hatch that will be there, and then will come down, I assume, in some phantasmagorical way. What else can we combobulate? Aha, no, we totally didn't build the arms, so let me go and get the bits for the arms and we'll make those. Back in a second. Okie dokie, right, time to make some arms. Now I've already made one off camera. You can see here it's as much as I can make before varnishing. So we have the manipulator, which in the occasional tradition of master grades is the 1 and 3 style, so 3 fingers and a trigger finger, both of which rotate nicely. Again, this was using the gunmetal paint and a coating of smoke, and as you can see, despite what people say, there's no paint coming off, everything moves nice and smooth. The fingers and things were painted individually and then it was all assembled. They weren't all assembled and then painted, so because I wanted to make sure the ball joints got covered in paint as well. So that's the hand, and we have the arm unit with its bendability. It's quite nice. Now I can't stick the armour on the outside like on the hands and everywhere else because I've got to paint, as I said, so that's as far as I can go. This bit is a bottom of the arm, but again I can't attach that in yet because I can't finish the rest of it. So that's that arm. Now I actually forgot I'd built that much, so I started building the other one thinking it was the first one, so I already kind of built the first bit, so sorry about that. I didn't realise, or I didn't remember I built that one, so arse. So let's get this built. So we have the top half of the arm has been made. There are 2 polycaps in there, one at the end and one at the top here, and it's just the 2 sides go together, so nice and simple. So that bit's made. Then we have this little part here, and also this little polycap, which has to go in this way. So the big flat end has to stick out and effectively makes the wall of that part there, so it blocks it off. Then we need the 2 side parts. Now this goes in like with this tab down. This goes here. That's a little bit stiff. So you remember like last time when I did the leg, I was testing things by, that's the wrong way around, testing things one at a time. Which way around does this go? That goes that way. So this one goes here. That's what I just thought. Yes, so I was testing it one at a time to make sure they fit. That one's quite loose, so that one's fine. This one is a little bit tight. It's also upside down. This one is a little bit tight, actually. No, that's fine. That's fine. And these bits as well go in the top, so I'll just make sure these aren't too tight. That's nice and loose. And that's fine. So there's no filing to do there. Everything's nice and loose. So we want to attach this here. How am I doing this now? I see. So that goes in there like that. This piece has the polycap facing this way, and this piece simply snaps on top. We have another arm. Again, that's as far as I can go on this bit because the next bit is the armour, which is matte. I have assembled the armour. I've put this little side panel here onto this chunk. Put these two slides, 1 polycap, and this chunk on the side. So that's done. Next we have the handy pandy, which has all the little tiny pieces in the world. So how do we do a hand? Well, in the case of these hands, quite easily. So we have, what do we have? We have this piece here with that notch at the front. That is where the thumb goes, and you know which one's the thumb because it's got the big ass ball joint on it. So thumb goes in here like that. Do it on camera, dear boy, do it on camera. So your thumb goes in there, and this is where it gets slightly fiddly. The finger goes on here first. Now the way you look at the finger is you've got this side is flush and this side sticks out, and you want the flush side on the outside. Then the 3 here, you've got long peg and a short peg. Again, you do it upside down. You want the short peg on the inside. See how I nearly put that on upside down? It's very professional. Because I am dead profesh, me, dead profesh. And then all you do then is put this little puppy on the floor, almost. This piece goes somewhere. Where does this piece go? Brain. Hang on. This piece goes there. If I can find it. There we go. And that then locks the thumb in place. Fabulous. And also creates the ball joint for the wrist. And there we have a fabby dabby, handy pandy. Done. So that is now, actually that is as much as I can make, I think. Apart from, hang on, apart from the two shoulder parts, which I can slap this on now. Which you will note I've painted yellow, because of course I have. I decided yellow was a good colour. There wasn't enough yellow on the kit, so I put these bits yellow. A bit like the Lightning Gundam, but not. So that's them done. We've got our hands and arms made. So that now is as much as I can build in advance before the next stage. So the next stage, when we come back next time, because that's going to do it for today, is to gloss varnish everything, and then once everything is gloss varnished, we need to do some decals. Although if I decide to do some paint chipping by painting it onto the white paint, we'll do that first. So it's either going to be a little bit of paint chipping or not, but then we'll be doing the gloss varnishing, and then we'll be doing the decals. Once the decals are on, it's another gloss varnish, and then we're on to oil paint weathering. So that will do for this time. Thank you very much for watching. A bit of a higgledy-piggledy episode this time. So apologies for being a bit bunged up earlier on. I don't know why I say we, you know, it's only me that does this. It's just me. I don't know why I say we. It sounds very profesh, but it's weird because it's just me. I will see you again next time. Pop along to the YouTube channel to go and watch loads of other videos, all the other videos in this build. Subscribe to the Facebook page. Go to www.modelmaking.guru, the website, for all the fabulous things on there. And as always, leave your comments on this video. Let me know what you think. Post your silly comments. Tony, I'm sure you'll say something vastly amusing and not relevant, but that's what I expect of you, so carry on. But that'll do it. I will see you next time when we should do some more fabulous things. But until then, take care of yourselves. Thank you for watching. And as always, adios amoebas.